Blog Talk Radio.
Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is.
Looks like we're experiencing technical difficulty. But don't worry, folks. We're still on the air.
Yes, we are. That Nerd Show is back. It's this week on That Nerd Show. I'm one of your hosts, Marcus Blake, and with me, as always, is Brendan.
Happy New Year, everybody.
And that is very true. It is a Happy New Year. It is the start of 2017, which means that our very first show is looking back at 2016, the best and the worst. But before we get to news and reviews and all that, we are going to do our editorial segment at the very beginning of the show. We are very sad that we have to do this, but we want to remember Carrie Fisher, our favorite princess from a galaxy far, far away. Very sad and tragic that she passed away over a week ago, and still just very, very shocked and surprised by it. I kind of agree with Mark Hamill in his first Twitter comment. There are no words, but we do have a few things to discuss in regards to her. There are many reasons why we loved Carrie Fisher. She was rebellious, just like she was in Star Wars. Fearless. I don't know if that was always the Coke, but unapologetic and always entertaining.
That might have been.
Whether she was just talking bullshit or not. But I think even with the bullshit that she talked and tweeted about and stuff, there was a lot of truth in there. And if there is such a thing as a celebrity spiritual guru, she was definitely it. And the world and the nerd universe will definitely is worse off not having her around anymore. And I will admit, Brendan, when I got the news alert and I finally confirmed it, I actually did take a moment and kind of shed a tear there. I mean, most celebrity deaths you kind of hear about, and it's like, that's sad, and you remember certain things like David Bowie, but Princess Leia, she was so much a part of our childhood, Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, and, I think in a lot of ways it is kind of like losing a mother. And there really aren't a lot of words that we can say about that, but she definitely, gave a hell of a lot to the nerd universe besides being Princess Leia. Always entertaining. I think her one-woman special.
If you want to know how much, if you want to know how much she really added to the nerd universe beyond Princess Leia, go look at all the movies that she was the script doctor on that was called in to fix a bad script.
Yeah.
Go take a look at that list.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I mean, she was the script whisperer and helped fix a lot of things, movies that we, have come to love. And her, kind of biography, postcards from the edge of the book and the movie were, phenomenal. Very true, but I think her one-woman show, Wishful Drinking, came out about 4 years ago, hit the nail on the head about celebrity scandal and how to get through it and how to have the last laugh when you come from that world. But it's just very, very shocking that we don't have her anymore. And one thing that, if there is a bright side to it, she did finish all of her scenes from episode 8, so she was done filming with that. But it does. But we don't know how it's going to affect episode 9 at this point. And I will say, in regards to Star Wars and the next trilogy, if we've lost Han, Carrie Fisher's gone to where she can't be Princess Leia, and please don't do CGI. Then that pretty much means that Luke has to make it out of this trilogy. We have to have at least one of the original to make it out.
And can we, by the way, can Disney buy him a tank to drive around in and get 24/7 security for him?
Right.
I mean,
geez.
he's already lost a lot of weight, so that's gonna be good for the health. We're up on that. That's okay, but let's just make sure he makes it through the next few years.
Right. We can't lose everybody here, okay? I mean, but yes, Carrie Fisher, it's a big loss for the nerd universe, and she will be dearly missed. So, but there will be plenty of stories that we tell about her. I think her daughter will take up the mantle of sharing funny things and old pictures and whatnot. And I'm glad that Gary will still be around and be able to, contribute to his Twitter page. Of course, if you really want to do one better, Carrie Fisher from Beyond the Grave is a Twitter account. I don't see why not. We need the entertainment in this godforsaken world. So,
and honestly,
I
think that should be written by Mark Hamill.
This is
maybe
my
a
ongoing
co-venture
tribute.
with her daughter, or maybe a co-venture with her daughter Billie Lourd.
Right? Why not? I say go for it. So, anyway, getting on to nerd news, there isn't much really going on over the past week or so, or actually a couple of weeks since we've been on in the holidays. Just some shocking celebrity deaths and stuff like that, and we do have to mention too. I mean, that is actually bizarre and just another heartbroken death that her mother goes the day after. It's like, wow, really?
And then most people's favorite Catholic priest on TV,
I know.
William Christopher on MASH, dies on
Father
New Year's
Mulcahy.
Eve.
See, and you're a child of the 70s and 80s when you grew up, when Father Mulcahy was, your priest on TV with Pearls of Wisdom, and always great writing with him. So,
especially his back and forth between Alan Alda and him.
Yeah. So not a kind year for celebrities. And I mean, we do have to mention a little bit, about, George Michael, too. I mean, regardless of any controversies or the fact that he was, came up through a Mexican boy band, there's a lot of songs out there that we danced to or made out with girls at high school dances. A lot of music that we didn't realize was by, him. And I don't really care what anybody says. Wham! Is a fun band to kind of dance to. Even if it was made more popular by Zoolander. So,
and
yeah.
got a recent mention in Deadpool.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've lost too many this year. But all right, so a little bit of nerd news. Probably I would say the biggest news is Doctor Strange has been confirmed for Thor Ragnarok. And
which, if you watched Doctor Strange and stayed for the extra credits, you're hardly surprised at this.
Right. We probably already knew this, but it has officially been confirmed. So we will see Benedict Cumberbatch in the next Thor movie. And I will say, between everything else that's coming out, Thor is really right at the top of my list. I didn't hate the last one, but I think this is either going to be the best of this trilogy, or right up there with the first one. So
honestly, they've already stated that it is the seminal moment for Phase 3. It's going to change everything in Marvel Phase 3.
Right.
So I'm very, that's just something to look forward to. I want to see what happens.
Absolutely. A little bit of good news. Ben Affleck did confirm this week that it's still up in the air whether he'll direct the solo Batman movie, but he does have one condition. The script better be damn good. If he's not happy with the script, he's not directing. So, at that So with that said, I think you should just take the reins and be in control of this solo Bat movie and just let him do his thing. He hasn't directed a bad film yet. I don't see why he would do one now.
And honestly, look, you've had enough controversy with Zack Snyder, and I don't hate Zack Snyder. I just dislike some of his decisions in regards to the DC universe. So can we just give Ben Affleck a chance? Because, I don't know if you've seen Argo, but that was a pretty good flick, and he directed that. So,
yeah. And the town is the town is a phenomenal film too.
Yeah, let's give him some room to work here, And hey, he was the one bright spot about the movie I didn't like, Batman versus Superman. So, he obviously knows Batman. Let's let him run with it, okay? And
right.
This is a not Ben Affleck fan, being his advocate here. I am not a Ben Affleck fan. Never really have been. So for me to be his advocate, that's saying something.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let's see. Ryan Gosling has been cast as Neil Armstrong for the biopic of Neil Armstrong, directed by Damien Chazelle, which directed La La Land, which is up for a bunch of awards. I'm excited about a Neil Armstrong biopic. I think that's cool. I mean, anytime you do a space movie, and I haven't really seen a bad space movie when it's been kind of a biography. Right Stuff's an incredible movie. Apollo 13, incredible movie. But I'm kind of torn on Ryan Gosling being Neil Armstrong. I mean, I think he's a great actor. That's kind of one of those wait and see moments for me. Okay, I'm not sure, but let's see what's going to happen. I probably won't hate it, but I'm not going to rush to judgment right now. That's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know if.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. With that being said, I can't think of anything of anybody that middle aged that would probably be really good for Neil Armstrong, off the top of my head. But I mean, everybody else.
At least they're going with some different actors, and not just saying, "Hey, let's use George Clooney."
Right. Fair enough on that. Or Matt Damon. Of course, I think Matt Damon has pretty much done his space movie. I don't think you're ever going to be able to top The Martian. And, you were in Interstellar. I'm I think you've done enough in that genre. It's time to go off and do other things. So,
which is why he's apparently now Chinese.
We have not done our review on The Great Wall yet. I do have a screener. Let's just say I haven't rushed to go watch that movie yet. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. All right, Kevin Costner announced this week that he will be planning another epic Western, which first, I'm not upset about this at all. I think he has done great in Westerns. Never been disappointed. The Hatfields and McCoys, History Channel thing was actually really great. Good cast and stuff. The only one probably is not as good, but it was more, biographical, was his Wyatt Earp, probably because it was way too long. However, and let's face it,
movie's incredibly slow in the first act.
Right. I mean, it's an okay Wyatt Earp movie, but it's kind of hard, when everybody loves Tombstone, it's not like, yes, but I have this, that's more accurate. We don't really care. We're not watching this movie for accuracy. I think that story
I'm not
is
watching
probably
the History Channel.
Right.
And even if I was, then you tell me it's the aliens' fault.
Right. I think there's a lot of inaccuracies about the, the OK Corral, because it's been told in legend so many times. That's what happens. But anyway. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he commented that I have one. I've been working on it. It's about 10 hours long. How about that? Maybe I'll make 3 features out of it. There's a 4th one too, so it's truly a saga. I could do TV, or I can make it like every 6 months, have a big Western that's tied together like the Jean de Floriette and Man of the Spring. So anyway, we don't really have a lot of details about what it is, but we do know that his next big project will be a Western. And, a good Western miniseries of 10 hours, if you find like the right cable channel for it, I could definitely see that working. Maybe explore a little bit more about the world of like Open Range. That was an incredible movie. Love that movie. And I think I'm one of the few that actually likes The Postman.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Quick little segue. We were interviewing Jim, and I forget not Morrison, the producer on Postman. He also helped produce. I
was going to say you need a
Wolves.
seance to interview Jim Morrison.
No, not him. I have to look up. I forget his last name now. But anyway, he's worked with Kevin Costner before, and we were talking about The Postman and what the story was supposed to be, and I commented to him, I was like, I think I'm one of the few that actually really likes this movie, but I understand the complaints for it. It was way too long. It's not believable about people taking over the post office and, saving the land from tyranny and yada, yada, yada. But in terms of like a post-apocalyptic epic like movie, I don't, compared to other things we've seen, I'm like, I don't understand why people consider it bad. And he's like, well, it didn't get edited the way we wanted to, but it's still kind of a good movie. I'm like, oh, okay. So editing and maybe making it like 4 hours would have made it better. I don't know. To add to this constant debate we have at that nerd show. But anyway, I don't fault Kevin Costner for being in that movie. So I say go ahead. Keep doing Westerns. All right. So here's something actually kind of funny. Got announced this week that for Legends of Tomorrow, they will meet George Lucas in an episode titled Raiders of the Lost Ark. The Sweet Victoria star Matt Angel will play the young filmmaker. So I guess in their time traveling, they will cross paths with George Lucas at some point. So I thought that was kind of a little geeky Easter egg. We don't know the full story of really what the episode is about, but they will meet a young George Lucas at some point. So there you go. And for you Supergirl fans out there, the villains Livewire and Metallo will be returning later this spring during the second season. So if you were big fans of them last year, they will be coming back. So there you go. And this one's a little bit sad, but no, there will not be a Deadpool cameo in the Logan movie that's coming out in the next few months. I say anytime you can put Deadpool. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. If there was going to be a surprise cameo, why would you tell anyone? Number one.
Right.
Number two, they said it's not going to be in the movie. That doesn't mean there won't be an after-credit scene.
Right.
Because he was very specific with the way Ryan Reynolds said it. So there's a lot of people going, well, they've pulled one over on us before.
And this is Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson. I mean, you have to take everything he says, I think, with a grain of salt. So.
Yeah, because most of the stuff he says on Twitter is usually in character. I mean...
Yeah. I am Deadpool. I just say bullshit. Yeah, for everybody that loved all the bullshit that Trump says on Twitter, I say, why not more Deadpool instead? Or Ron Reynolds as Deadpool. Come on, that's more entertaining. Anyway, well, we'll see what happens. Logan is definitely one of the ones that we are looking forward to. Coming out in March. It just looks awesome. And the fact, The Pain song, written by Nine Inch Nails, but sung by Johnny Cash, playing throughout the trailer. I mean, I got goosebumps first time I saw it. I'm like, bring it on! I want Old Man Logan and everything. Let's do this. So I'm way more excited about this film than I am Alien Covenant, which I just don't know why that movie's even being made. But there's one good thing about Alien Covenant being made. I can assure you, Brendan, that the press screening for that movie will not be 8 o'clock in the morning and be a 3D screening, like Prometheus.
God. I know, I actually don't hate that movie. I just hate the organizers who did that to us.
Yeah, that was the only time they could do it. We still give the marketing company, we give them a hard time about this, especially when it's like a midday, 10 o'clock screening. Oh, okay, at least you're giving us a little time to get there and wake up.
Look, if you're doing a screening before noon, it better come with free brunch. That's all I'm saying. All right? Have some bacon and eggs, some corned beef hash, you know.
Right. Or you can't.
Treat us right.
Or you can't fault me that I'm bringing donuts into the movie. I'm just saying.
Damn straight. 8 o'clock this morning.
I know, and 8 o'clock. I'm not saying I'm not up at that time. I'm a night owl, so I'm still getting through my first cup of coffee at 8 o'clock, and doing a 3D screening, I'm never awake enough for that. Anyway, we're going to get to some gaming, the gaming part of our show here a little bit later, but we figured we would at least talk about free games that are going to be on PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live in January. So if you want to get a chance to play some older games and everything, then here's what's coming out. You will get The War of Mine, the little ones for the PlayStation 4, the little survival game. The vehicular combat game Blazer Rush for the PS3. And then the indie adventure game called, I've never played this one, Asgend 2 for the PS Vita. Swindle will be available on PlayStation 4. Then the cartoon adventure Day of the Tentacle, it's remastered. And then you'll get Titan Souls, which will be available on the PS4 and the PS Vita. I'm sorry about that. We don't really play games on that particular system. So anyway, and for the Xbox Live Gold members, you will be able to download World of Van Helsing Death Trap. And then, of course, the fighter game Killer Instinct Season 2, the Ultra Edition. In February, for Xbox 360, you'll it has backwards compatibility. You can download the puzzle platform The Cave and Rayman Origins. So a few little games out there that you may like or may not like, but you'll be able to download them if you're. Yeah. Just a little put here. If you did not download Story, or you at least did not, because with PS4 you don't have to download it to your system right away. You can actually just put it in your library and then download it at a later time. But if you don't put it into your library, then you don't get a chance to go back later and do so. So I recommend taking all the free games and putting them into your library and then downloading them at your leisure. But with last month, if you didn't at least put it in your library, Stories, Path of Destinies, shame on you. It is an awesome little RPG. It's a well-narrated story. It's a choose-your-own-adventure type game with some great hack-and-slash combat. It's got a nifty little RPG progression system to it. The combat's very fluid and responsive. And the stories themselves are excellent and well-written. So if you did put it in your library, put it on your playlist because it really is worth the time. Sounds like a very exciting one. In speaking of games, I had a recommendation by fellow vet who works at GameStop called The Dwarves, and it's based off that book series, The Dwarves. So that, they made a game out of it. Love the concept, and if you're a huge fan of the books, then you'll probably be excited about the game. But I got this game. I basically used trade credit to get it. and I'm kind of glad I didn't spend, money on it. I wanted to like this. I wanted to be excited about it. And you thinking that it was going to basically be a hack and slash game with dwarves and, sarcasm and stuff like that. And it was one of these RPG games where the regular, square, triangle, X or whatever, or A, B, Y, X, depending on your system, doesn't just do a different move. You have to use another component and select the move and then basically hit X to decide what you're going to do, which basically just slows down the game and stuff. And I know that there are I know there's games that love that concept, okay, making you really think about your strategy. But I'm sorry, if you're making a hack and slash game with a little bit of a story to it, then build that into the engine like Diablo, okay, and just have fun with it. That's what it's meant to be. It's not meant to be serious or anything like that. And it's like, you take out that, how you're doing your moves, you take out that one thing, and I think the game could have probably been really great. But whoever designed it, I think, just fucked up on that. And to me, it's not really worth the money. Now, with that being said, it didn't retail at $59.99 either. It retails at $40, and you can probably find it for $25.30 in most places now. With that, which to me should be a hint that maybe it's not going to be a great game, or they just didn't do a lot of marketing behind it because maybe there's only that very select few that'll actually like it. And I think that's a big disservice to games. I understand you make something for your your core audience, but you're also wanting people who have never played it to get involved in the game as well. Okay? So I think that game for me will either be traded back in or given to someone else who actually likes that concept. And I will probably just go back and play Diablo 3 and slash up zombies. So, but anyway. All right. This week's Sign of the Apocalypse. We figured that with all these celebrity deaths out there, it'd be kind of funny to talk about this story. Let's face it, 2016 was very brutal when it came to celebrities. We lost Prince, we lost David Bowie, Carrie Fisher. So somebody in North Carolina, a guy in North Carolina, decided to start a GoFundMe campaign to help protect Betty White from 2016. He only wanted to raise $2,000 to basically, go out and I guess be security for Betty White and protect her from the curse of 2016. And let's face it, we all laugh at it because it sounds like somebody would just suggest that in the bar when they're drinking. We'd have a nice laugh. But no, he actually did it. And not only did he meet his goal, he doubled his goal. And still no word. And basically, you can get away with keeping the money because it's now 2017. So I guess in some weird way he can say, well, see, I did my job. She didn't die in 2016. But this week's Sign of the Apocalypse has a lot to do with the ridiculous stuff that we do GoFundMe campaigns for. Crowdfunding is a great source to raise money, especially if you're an artist, filmmaker, or, medical bills, stuff like that. But there's also a lot of weird stuff and things that are just funny in the beginning. But if you really take a step back and look at it okay, this is getting absurd. I need to raise money to get burritos this month. Let's be a little bit more serious. But my suggestion for the guy who did double his money to help protect Betty White is, that's great that you did that, and everybody had a nice laugh and donated to your campaign. But I don't think you should actually keep the money. So here we're going to give you some suggestions of what you can do with the money. First, you can give it to charity. So that's always a good one. But what do you think he should do with that money, Brendan?
Oh. Well, yeah, I would say give it to charity. I would say, and depending on who he is or where he is, well, he's in North Carolina, right? There's a lot of military bases in North Carolina. Why don't you give it to a good veterans charity? The Fisher House is a good one. They give 98% of the money that comes in to the people that need it. They only keep 2% for operating costs. So that's a good one. So give to them, the Fisher House.
Yeah. Or if it really is something for Betty White, you know, get her something that is healthy that would help her prolong her life or something like that. But I just don't think that you should actually get to keep that money, since it really kind of started as a joke.
Call Betty White, ask her favorite charity, or, you know, just look up her favorite charity, and then donate the money to her favorite charity in her name.
Absolutely. There you go. But I mean, like I said, we all had a nice laugh. It's great that you doubled your goal. But, you know, it's right and wrong on how you handle what you do with the money. Now, the people that, you know, raise money to get burritos, sure, get your burritos. You know, if you're a poor college kid or something like that, I totally get that. Of course, my question, too,
if somebody donates $30,000 to people so they can get the burritos, then those people deserve to lose that money, and I guess it's fine that the other people can keep it, because if they're that stupid to give you money for a burrito.
Now, I mean, if you said that you're a college athlete on scholarship, that, you know, because you can't get a job, because you'll lose your scholarship in NCAA rules, and you're raising money to get food, sure, why not? I think you should definitely do that.
The irony is that the NCAA probably would screw him over that, because the NCAA is basically FIFA of America.
Right. If it weren't for the NCAA being corrupt and not doing the right thing, you know, we might actually get a really good NCAA football game again, or basketball. But no, still don't have those games. I don't like playing NCAA football. But I want one on a newer system with great graphics. But anyway, so that's this week's Sound of the Apocalypse. How you should properly handle when you raise money for stupid, humorous things on GoFundMe. Or, you know what, I'll give you one more suggestion. For people that are raising money for medical bills, it should be like automatic that you don't get to keep the money, and that money should, you know, go towards that, somebody who really does need it. So, anyway, all right. This whole year is we are going to be talking about movies, games, and TV shows, and a lot of different things, and we're going to be breaking it up over the next hour and a half. But we thought that we might actually get into gaming a little bit before we get to the rest of it, and we've got some other guests joining us for the last half of the show. We've had a lot of interesting discussions about games, things that we have played this year. And this was our very first year of doing a Game of the Year, and we made our own top 10 list of games and kind of put them in an order. And I think we probably see a little bit different on the order of where things should be. But it's kind of a combined effort of how to look at it. You know, for the top 10 games. And unlike other outlets, we do include sports games into the final top 10 list. Now, most years, sports games may not end up in there because they don't change much. You know, you improve on the graphics, and for sports games to be rated highly, you have to make significant improvements. But we did have a couple of games that actually made some significant improvements this year, and that's why they made it into our top 10 list. But to tell our audience out there how we really look at it, we look at games, well, we look at all kinds of games, and then we break things down into our own little categories, like what is the best first-person shooter, or, you know, best RPG, best multiplayer. One thing that we did not do is we didn't rate the number one game of the year, you know, as a straight multiple player. I know another outlet actually rated Overwatch as the game of the year and the best out of everything that was out there, and That's great, but we have to be very honest. Not everybody likes playing multiple player games. And when you have a game that is strictly that, it has its own little niche. There are days that we just want to play games by ourselves and do it on our own without having to, do stuff online with other people. Especially if you have to listen to them, which is basically what all the complaints were about the first Titanfall game. But if you haven't read our article, our game of the year this year was Dishonored 2 for a number of reasons. First, the story was fantastic. It was one of the best stealth games that's come out in a long time. The greatness of stealth games is there are a lot of different choices you can, do to get through the game. You can actually be non-lethal and sneak around everybody without killing a single person. Of course, I don't think that's much fun. But this was far superior than the first game. And between the possibilities and just how gorgeous it looked, and between all the little things that you got to do to get to the end with all the little missions, it made the game worth $60 if you bought it, at retail, and spent hours on end, trying to get through it. And, unlike games like Dark Souls where you're going to die a lot, you can easily, I don't want to say too easily, but you can average, I don't know what the proper word is, but you can make your way through the story, and it's a lot of fun. Kind of like the last Dragon Age game. You're going to spend, anywhere from like 80 to 100 hours trying to get through the game and everything, but there's lots of different choices and things that you can do through it. And there are ways to get through it where you're not, dying all the time. So that's what we rated as our number one game of the year. And I did have a fan ask me about why Final Fantasy wasn't. And the Final Fantasy game, while it was a great game, this game has spent 6 years in development. They took their time with it. It's a lot of fun. It has a lot of elements of that we love about Final Fantasy, but a lot of new things. Definitely has, the fighting engine and all that you see in the Skyrim games. Beautiful game, worth the money. And I think in any other year it might be rated number one. But I think that there was just, Dishonored 2, because of its story, was able to eke out, get past Final Fantasy, at least on our list. But that isn't to say that Final Fantasy isn't worth the buy and isn't worth playing. And you will have a lot of fun with it.
If it's on a top 10 list, it's worth buying and worth playing. Number 10 is worth buying and worth playing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's not like we're disrespecting the game because it's number 2.
No, but I think there, and we kind of went back and forth in talking about what would be number 1 and number 2 and all that, and including the number 3 choice, which was Uncharted 4, and was one of the best in the series. Alex Moore, one of our bloggers, who is actually playing it now and playing it late, is like, I can't get to other games because this is so addicting. And we haven't seen an Uncharted game this good since, the second one. And a lot of people ask, well, after the third one, which was another great version, where do you really go with it? And they did find a way. I think the top 3 games any other year could have probably been a number 1 game of the year. It's just they all came out in the same year. So, and it's kind of funny, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brendan, but doesn't this year seem like, there was a lot of way overhyped games in the industry that just didn't really meet the expectations of, the companies were putting out there?
There were a few that fell pretty flat, yeah. I think this year is going to be a much better year for gaming. So there's just so many out there that are coming this year. And I think a lot of the problem with this year, too, is a lot of games that we were expecting this year got pushed to next year. So there were a lot of, some of the big hype for this year was also deflated because of that. So you had some games that fell flat and then other big games that were pushed back. Like specifically Mass Effect Andromeda was pushed back. So we're not going to get that for another couple of months. And my God, that looks amazing. So, I think 26 was a bit of a letdown on a two-pronged approach. Some of the games that were delivered didn't live up to the hype. And then some of the games that we really wanted to play, they were like, well, they're not quite finished. Shit.
Right.
Well,
but what's interesting about this year, too, is Titanfall was our number 5 on our top 10 list, Titanfall 2. And the developers literally listened to all the complaints about Titanfall and fixed it. They didn't ignore it. They this is what the first Titanfall game should have been, okay? Yes, it's great to have a multiplayer game if that's what you want. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here later, but to have it straight be a multiple player and then to have to listen to 12-year-olds talk trash with you, no. I spent 10 minutes of that in the first game and was like, bullshit. I'm done. And I don't like to put my games necessarily on mute, okay? That's not what they're intended for. And I've heard people say that, well, it really did get kind of good, and there were some really great things about, Titanfall 2. I'm like, well, it was so annoying in the beginning I couldn't get there. But it wasn't for Titanfall 2 at all.
Well, and I had the same experience, and I had the same experience with Battlefield. 15 minutes in a Battlefield, I'm like, all right, I've played the whole game. I'm done. I've played the multiplayer. I've played the TIE Fighter. I've done the little side missions. Okay,
you
I'm
mean
done.
Battlefront?
What am I going to do? Play this? Yeah, Battlefront. What did I say? Battlefield. I meant Battlefront. So what am I going to do? So play the same mission over and over again, fighting the same freaking people over and over again? I was like, there's no replayability here for me. I need something else. And lo and behold, EA's like, wow, we didn't think we needed a single player campaign. Oh, guess what's coming in Battlefront 2? Single player campaign. Shocking. You mean it didn't sell as much as you thought it would? Because they still sold a shit ton of copies. Don't get me wrong, but they were like, I don't know, just annoy me. We don't feel like we need this. Oh, look, we need this. Yeah, no shit. Sherlock.
Yeah, that was
Here's a clue.
Right, that was one of those games that we're like, wow, we're really glad we didn't spend $60 on this game. We love Star Wars, and it was nostalgic and gorgeous, but that's not enough for us. I actually went back to playing Battlefront 2, on the PS2 or PS3.
Yeah,
because it was more fun.
Look, seriously, I went back and played it on the PC. I have it on Steam. And, and you're right, it was gorgeous. As a tech demo, it was absolutely brilliant. As a video game, it was $30 worth of content for $59.99.
Right. The only...
Sorry, I'll keep my money in my wallet.
Right. I still play the Battlefront game, but what I have realized over the last year is that game is more fun when you are playing with friends or with me, nieces and nephews. Like the other day, watching my nephew, and I told him, you have to be good the night before. If you act up or anything, you won't get to come and play it. But if you're good, you get to be Luke Skywalker in a battle, and I will be Darth Vader, and you get to face off against me and see if you can kill me. And he was just like, great. And from that perspective, yes, but not worth $60. And there are a lot of games like that that just fall short on so many levels. And I think we can get back to Titanfall 2. This one was worth the $60 because you fixed everything that you should have already had the first time. That's why you do beta testing. That's why you do demos early on and listen to what people really want in a game. For the people that really love multiple player battles to having a really good single player campaign. Call of Duty has great multiple player campaigns. But they also have, the brilliance too is the single player campaigns that you can do on your own, okay? Even if you've seen, everything before. And no, Call of Duty Infinite War did not make our top 10 list for the simple reason of we're getting to the point where we got too many Call of Duty games, and you have got to really find a way to top yourself to make it interesting. Going to space, that's great, but all you were doing was basically being Halo on PlayStation. I'm not saying I didn't have fun with it, and I'm not saying you shouldn't play it when you just want a nice, neat little fun campaign that you can zip through and shoot things. But is it worth the money that... Fair enough.
That's Halo on PlayStation.
Right. But you know what did make our top 10 list? Destiny Rise of Iron. So, there you go.
Hey, how about that?
But yeah, it's just a lot of overhype on games, and I think they kind of, in talking about games that got pushed back, I think they had to do that because knowing that it was kind of a disappointing year in a lot of ways. And I think having something like Final Fantasy, Dishonored 2, and Uncharted all rolled out in the same year, competing with each other, I think it's kind of necessary when some of your bigger games that you think are going to make more money are having to be delayed. I mean, how long have we been waiting for Honor? It's been almost 2 years now since we saw the trailer at E3. So I'm glad the game's
come out. It's coming out in what, February, I think. So it'll be just shy of 2 years.
Out. Well, it'll be almost 2 years by the time it comes out since they dropped the trailer at E3, and it's coming out on February 14th. So.
Yeah.
Happy
Valentine's Day. Kill everything.
Hey, I think that's a good date if she wants to play with you.
I agree. If you got a gamer girl, that's the way to go.
Absolutely. In regards to the game that made number 4 that you talk about, like single player campaigns and multiple player, that was very much worth the money, Battlefield 1. I wrote this we were putting our list together of the main reason that it's great. It's the first time we've had a World War I game where we've actually gotten to go back and do the different campaigns that were across World War I, from flying a biplane to the first kind of tanks to trench warfare, and on top of that, you have great multiple player where you can just drop in with people, all over across the world and do a battle. You're going to get killed a lot because my biggest complaint about that was I can't figure out where these people are, and I'm getting shot by snipers and everything else. But the development that they put into this game, on top of having some really great storylines of soldiers, especially having when you die as a certain character, they show how old you were and what your name was and kind of give it a little bit of a backstory. But for a war game, I hadn't had this much fun with a war game since like Call of Duty 2, like the big red one when it was World War II, especially as a history buff. So that one totally definitely worth the money, and it also made our list of the best first-person shooter game. Everything else we had already seen before as a first-person shooter. There wasn't anything new to it, and I think that was kind of disappointing. This year. Yes, great. Call of Duty was in space, but I've played games in space before. I have an Xbox. But Battlefield, absolutely. So I don't know what they're going to do to be able to top themselves, on that game, or whether the next one is going to be in development. But as long as you keep with kind of the historical themes and everything, I say by all means keep going for it, because like I said, it was a lot of fun. So here's an interesting question I have for you, because you've played the Battlefield games before this one, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Have you done like the Modern Warfare games with Call of Duty?
Yeah, I did Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 and 2.
Right. Which franchise would you consider better when it comes to more of a Modern Warfare type game?
Okay, let me put it to you this way. If you're looking for more of an arcade experience, I would say Call of Duty. If you're looking for a more simulation experience, I would say Battlefield. So I think they both have their strong points, but I think Battlefield lends itself to a slightly older audience. I think it skews to a more cerebral gamer, where Call of Duty is, I don't want to call it a button masher because there is strategy to it, but it's just geared toward a younger audience. Yeah.
Don't necessarily disagree with that assessment. I think you get a little bit more realism in the simulation with Battlefield. I mean, the Modern Warfare games were just nuts. I mean, they were fun.
The best scene with them, though, is the best scene in both Modern Warfare games is when you're in the AC-130.
Yeah.
That's honestly, of the entire Call of Duty series, that's probably my favorite scene, is just being in the AC-130 and just, there's nothing quite like seeing 10 terrorists walking to a building and then dropping a 105mm howitzer on it. It's just like, hey, there's a bunch of bad guys in that building right there. Bang, no more building. Okay, we're good.
Well, I mean, for me, I still think that the beginning of Modern Warfare 3, where they just drop you into New York and it's all, batshit crazy, and you're trying to wind your way through, to get to the stock exchange, was a lot of fun. I mean, it was intense, and they started the game off great. It didn't necessarily end, like one of the better video games, but at the same time, I mean, it did start off a lot of fun, and it made it worth the money at the time. But the reason I bring up this, comparison is, Battlefield has taken the time to give you a more authentic, realistic simulation of what war is. And to have the different campaigns in this Battlefield game was, fantastic. Okay. Especially when you are in, like a tank and stuff. So from that perspective, and I don't remember how many years it was actually in development. I mean, they've had it for about 4 or 5 years in development now, right? Well, maybe less than that. When did
I couldn't comment on.
Well, I think that
it's probably 2 to 3.
Yeah, probably a little bit less. I mean, Battlefield 4, I guess, dropped. Came out about 2-3 years ago. Yeah. It was like one of the newer PlayStation 4. Yeah, but anyway. But that's why it made our list. I had another fan ask me when it came to like the fantasy games this year, why we picked The Witcher over Dark Souls, and I'm like, well, when your third game is pretty much fixing your first 2 games, I'm not saying it wasn't good, but
here's another reason to pick The Witcher over Dark Souls. Which one's more accessible? I mean, look, Dark Souls is great for what it is, but what Dark Souls is a challenge thrown, a gauntlet dropped for every hardcore gamer. It's a pain in the bloody ass to play. And I'll be honest with you, I love games, I love gaming. I kind of suck at them. Gotta be honest. I'm really not that good. I enjoy the shit out of them, but I'm not that good. And if a game constantly kicks my ass for 6 hours straight, I'm not a masochist. I will put the game down and play a game I can enjoy and have fun beating. So to me, I mean, I just think that the story and all of the other thing too is Dark Souls. It's so dark all the time. It's depressing. The Witcher had some of the most beautiful scenery in a game I have ever seen. I stopped and I just caught myself staring at a sunset one day in The Witcher for like 10 minutes going, oh yeah, I'm playing a fucking game. This isn't real.
Yeah. And that's it. And I think it does have a better story. I mean, and that's another thing too. Is I think in another year, The Witcher 3 could have probably been a game of the year. I mean, they really have done. Go ahead.
It's just a fantastic game. I love the combat system. I love the magic system. You know, I love that scene where you got 5 guys come after you, and I just unloaded on them with fire magic, and then 2 swipes of my sword, and they were all dead. Now, of course, I scared the shit out of the bar patron, but you know, hey, it's okay. I had fun.
Well, for all the fans of Overwatch, we did put Overwatch. That was our number 10. I'm sorry, that was number 9 on our list. It was a great game, great style. But, you know, we're not going to put a multiplayer as our number 1 like other people. I think probably the biggest disappointment in games was probably No Man's Sky. There has just been problems with that. They had to drop like 2 patches to it or something. And if you're spending 2 hours trying to
drop patches these days. Every game gets patches dropped to it these days. You know what? The biggest problem with No Man's Sky was its marketing ahead of time. Excuse me. IGN and a few other sites were reporting it being something that it wasn't. And that's where the biggest drop-off is. If you wanted the game IGN was reporting was actually released this year. It's just only for Xbox and PS and for PC. It is coming to PS4 next year, but the game they were reporting on, they should have told everybody was Elite Dangerous. No Man's Sky is a space survival game. That's it. That's all it is. It is a space survival game, and if you go into it with that knowledge, it's not a bad game. But if you think it's this MMO where there's a storyline and there's no, it's not. So, you know, I think some websites out there perpetrated a myth, and then I think the company behind them didn't do enough to correct those misconceptions. So, you know, I think that really is what doomed that game. And I think now that they've got the technology down, a second game will be much better.
Well, and I think that's what happens with a lot of games, hence Dishonored 2, Titanfall 2. And again, what leads into a lot of things being overhyped. But one of the things that was not really overhyped, I mean, there were jokes made about the multiplayer being ridiculously hard, was Doom. But you know, they just kind of rolled out and said, here is a game, a modern version of Doom, with better graphics on a newer console system, with everything that you're going to love about Doom. You know, but by the way, we're going to make the multiplayer so ridiculously hard that's going to be your gauntlet to, you know, for your hardcore gamers. But you can have a really good single-player campaign and enjoy it. It wasn't a great game compared to other things that were out there. But if you play Doom from the beginning, if you were playing it on the PC like we were in high school, then you're going to love this game. And that alone, that's the nostalgia that I think was probably worth $60 compared to something like Battlefront. And you didn't have to buy the expanded editions at $60 a pop. You know, that should have already been in the game. So Doom, very much, you know, enjoyed it and was worth it. It didn't make our top 10, but it was one of those honorable mentions that should be talked about. The last thing that I do before we kind of roll on to the rest of our show is I wanted to talk about sports games a little bit and why we had 2 of them in our top 10. Again, if you make significant improvements in a sports game that makes it just fantastic gameplay, then you deserve to be in a top 10 list. Madden 17 is probably the best version in 5 years because I really put the love into the defense, you know, really having to be more strategic with man coverage and zone, you know, that kind of thing. But they improved the running game. You didn't get beat up on the running game. It wasn't all centered around passing like the NFL is anyway. You actually got to jump better jumps over guys, move around. You could actually get through holes and gain extra yards. So you could break up your plays between run and passing, a lot more. And I think that made the game a lot more fun. Now, if you're like me who plays the Chicago Bears and has to rely on Jay Cutler, you need a good running game to kind of help you defeat everybody. So the graphics, I don't want to say the graphics were really anything better than they were last year, but they were, phenomenal, a lot of fun and stuff. But those two big improvements made that game worth buying, compared to other years. But the best sports game, really, and even if you're not a huge basketball fan, I think everybody should play it, was NBA 2K17. Very, very similar to last year's version and the version before that, but everything was more lifelike in the movements, and how you had to play the game and strategize and everything, unless you just put it on a rookie level, especially with defense and stuff like that, made it better. So they made enough significant improvements that it was able to top what their version was last year. And that, I'm always going to be a hockey fan, so NHL is always going to be my favorite sports game every year. And FIFA's pretty much the same game you got last year, except they threw in this story where you get to put this guy named Alex Winter on your favorite team and, talk to the GM and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, well, nobody really cares about that. The strength of FIFA is always the multiple tournaments that you get to play. And if you really want a good story, well, why don't you just create your own player in your name and have them break every record in Premier League or whatever. That's really what makes those games a lot of fun, because you get to play basically every team from every league across the world. But NBA 2K17 just, and you got more classic teams that you got to play too. Of course, you got a little bit more improvement on the blacktop play. The other night, I don't do much of the blacktop stuff, but the other night I was having the 91 Bulls team go up against the 85 Celtics team, which was pretty fun. I think it was over the holidays, I had my own little, NBA championship. So, goddamn that Larry Bird. But,
basketball Jesus.
I know. But it was just, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous game. And they made enough to make this one of the best games of the year. So that's what I can say about that, and why it ended up being, in the middle of our top 10 list, and why it was rated the best sports game. I still put NHL at 3 because it's the NHL, and it's such a fast-paced game anyway compared to any other sports game that I think it's always fun. But and the fact that you got to play the World Cup tournament, was kind of an added bonus. But really, the only big improvements they really made was they added one more category of difficulty between rookie and pro style, called semi-pro, where it's not a ridiculous challenge for you, but enough of a challenge that you're not scoring like 6 goals in a row without being touched on the rookie level, But the only biggest complaint is if you're doing it, it's a little bit slow if you're playing someone across the world or whatever. I don't know much about like playing a friend, but if you're just picking some random person or whatever online, it can drag a little bit during gameplay. So, but that's how we came to looking back at our games and stuff. But real quick, we are running a little out of time, but what is the most anticipated game for you in 2017, Brendan?
Oh, going to narrow it down to one?
Well, let's
I'll
say
tell you
two.
the most. I'll have to do two that are coming up real quick, just because I've been waiting for them both for a long time. But Mass Effect Andromeda, and because I played the entire the first trilogy of it, and it's fantastic. And then the other would be Horizon Zero Dawn, both on PS4. They both look fantastic.
Okay. For me, it's For Honor. I've just been waiting too long for it. I mean, the Mass Effect game, yes. Definitely want that. But For Honor is the one on my list. So, and when does Mass Effect come out? It comes out in May, right?
It's supposed to be it's supposed to be March last I looked, but let me check.
I might want to confirm that. See, that's the problem when the new year rolls around, fans, is, it comes up so fast, you can start thinking about everything that's coming out, and we just basically got done with this past year. So, haven't even had time to really breathe. The only thing that I know for sure is I know the Hitman Season 1 on PS4 will be coming out January 31st, but the new Resident Evil game will be coming out the 24th.
So it's not confirmed, but the latest thing released by EA is March. But
okay.
So that was as of today, but let me see if I can find something else. So anyway, keep going.
Well,
March, here we go. 5
definitely.
days ago, the listing was March 21st, 2017. So as of right now, March 21st, 2017. But that could be subject to change, just like everything. So.
Right. Well, we'll definitely see. I think it's going to do it. One thing I did want to mention, games that I was disappointed that never got enough love. I mean, it didn't really make our top 10 list because there were a lot of great games, but it could have easily made our top 10 list, was Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. It just got released in like a funky time of the year where, you had a lot of other stuff coming out, and of course, I think people were... Do what?
Deus Ex, you mean?
Oh, is that how you pronounce it? I thought it was... I guess I was...
Yeah, dude, it's Latin. Deus Ex Machina.
Anyway.
Come on, man.
But anyway, yeah, it never got enough love this past year compared to just when it got released. And I think everybody was still, hooked on The Division and stuff. And I didn't play it for very long because we had to go on to other things. But it was a lot of fun. It's one of those games that I want to get back, and like in between everything else, if I have time, I want to install it and actually, do a little bit here and there. So, but I will say the most disappointing game that I played this year was Homefront: The Revolution. Boy, that game just sucked. I think we actually rated it like a 4 out of 10 this year. It just... Yeah. Anyway, all right. We're not gonna take a commercial break because we're already running out of time, but we want to get to TV, and Allison Costa may be joining us here in a moment. But we had a lot of new TV shows that came out, and then of course, we wrapped up some great TV shows as well. Castle finally ended this past year, and that was kind of a rush job on, I guess we do have to cancel because Sonia Kodak is not coming back. So what we have already written, we were going to leave a cliffhanger, but we'll just add 3 extra minutes and jump into the future and let you know that the characters are okay. It was very weird. But Castle, I want to say this about Castle. I love the show. But I also think the show should have probably ended like 2 or 3 seasons ago. I think you kind of like
5 seasons, sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean, I never knew where they were going with, after he lost his memory, and then it just, I kind of quit watching at that point and kept up with it sporadically. And I just, read the reviews that were posted on our site and like, okay. I'm still not interested in keeping up with it. But I watched the last episode, and I was like, for everybody that kind of complains about the Sopranos last episode and how it ended, that's I have those same complaints about Castle. So, what about you?
Yeah, I didn't even watch last season. I had really lost interest too, which is a shame. But I after the whole thing where they tried to make him in some super spy or something, and it's like, dude, he's an author, okay? He's not Jack Ryan. He's Tom Clancy, okay? Tom Clancy wasn't going out there, so let's slow your roll a bit. And it just got a little too out there. It jumped the shark for me, and it should have ended right around. Well, as soon as they had them marry, that should have been the series finale, because I mean, that's kind of that's the natural conclusion of it. So I was good with it ending there, but apparently not. I'm just looking forward to new projects for both of them, because I like them both as actors. I just think they had run out of good storytelling plots at that point. So it was fun while it lasted, but there were so many other good things on television at that point that I didn't have time in my very busy schedule for. And for those of you who don't know, I work 2 other jobs. I work 60 to 70 hours a week. So I have a very, very busy schedule, and I just didn't have time in my life for mediocre television.
And
I know that sounds harsh, but it's just the way it is.
Well, and TV shows come and go. It seems like, especially like on CBS, if you didn't, if you just didn't grab your audience right off the bat, it's out. Another show that did end this year that I'm glad they finally ended it, because they were kind of starting to jump the shark, but they ended it right, was Person of Interest, one of our favorite shows. And
that was a great ending, by the way. I finally got to watch that on Netflix, and oh my God, that was awesome.
Yeah, and it went out like it should. I mean, it ended the way it should. And I got to admit, I did tear up at the ending. I did. That was a really good end. Yeah, I'm with you. I love the fact that
everybody got out of it unscathed.
No, and that's the way it should have been. I never felt like John should have been a guy that should completely make it out at the same time. I think him sacrificing himself and making a deal with the machine to get Harold out. But, John's the type of guy, he chose a life where your only way out probably is going to be death. But you did a lot of good. It really
reminded me of the ending of one of our favorite movies, which is The Devil's Own with Harrison Ford and Brad Pitt, which never got the due it deserved in the theater. But, the ending where, Brad Pitt's like, I told you, John, this isn't an American story. It's an Irish one, and he dies.
Right.
So, it's just it was just such a great ending all around. And then how I also liked in the rest of the season how he liked how the machine was setting up other teams and how another team got called in to save their ass.
Right. And it was people that they had helped along the way. That's like they're going to take up the mantle. Oh, the whole infiltration at the White House, and they keep encountering all these people that they had helped, and it's like, oh yeah, we're our own team now. Okay, so that is the perfect example of how a show should be in 5 seasons and go out with a bang. And I know that they didn't even know they were really going to get, the 5th season. But I think part of that, part of the compromise was like, well, we need to end it. We kind of had 5 years in mind, but give us 13 episodes and we're going to write 13 great episodes.
And you and I have been a big proponent of that format. Don't let the 22 season episode. All right, you get a lot of TV, that's great, but there's so many filler. One of the things that really kind of dragged down some of the lesser seasons of Arrow is some of the really bad filler episodes. And if Arrow and The Flash were 10 to 13 episodes of really tight storytelling, imagine how good they could be. I mean, they're still great shows, but imagine how good they could be if they just focused on 10 to 13 really strong episodes. And I just think it's the way to go for these types of stories. I think it worked beautifully for Person of Interest.
Well, you know what? You want the ultimate example? Smallville. Smallville was a great show. It shouldn't have lasted 10 years with 20 episodes in each season because half of it really is kind of crap with these Dawson's Creek bullshit episodes where he's going to save something.
Yeah, but this is the CW. We milk everything. I mean, Supernatural's on how many episodes, how many seasons now? And don't get me wrong, I love the guys from Supernatural. They're hilarious. And even in their bad episodes, they have some, lines that just make you laugh. But they still have a lot of bad episodes. So
right.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of it, and I think Person of Interest really is a model of how to do things right, especially on network television. That show really broke the mold for network television. You'd expect that on Netflix. You'd expect that on FX,
right.
But don't expect it on CBS. And I thought it was really great that it got to I think it's a testament to how good it was that it survived 5 years on CBS.
Right. All right, I'm going to bring Allison up. All right, we're going to bring Allison Costa up because we're talking TV, and we got to have some other opinions besides Brendan and I's opinion.
Hey, Allison.
Hey guys, what did I miss? What have you guys been talking
about?
Well,
we were talking about Person of Interest being the last year and going out the way that it did, and how Castle should have been that way, but Castle was just this kind of big, huge letdown, like scrambling around. Oh, I guess we are going to end the series. So we can't do our cliffhanger story. So,
that was a little sad.
Yeah, they could have done a lot better on that. But if you talk about the model of doing 13 great episodes, first of all, there's two places that really do that. A, FX. Plus, you can do darker TV shows. However, Kurt Sutter did kind of extend that a little bit with the last 2 seasons of Sons of Anarchy, where every episode was like 90 minutes. But still, okay, everything was great about it, and it went right up into the end and stuff. But the other thing is streaming networks.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the model's changing in a lot of ways because of all these streaming things that now can release, like on Netflix and different things, Amazon, where they can release the entire season at once, and they may only have 8 episodes, but each of these 8 episodes is, over an hour long or, 90 minutes or 60 minutes, whatever. They're longer, and it's all compacted in one, so they get a chance to say a little bit more in each episode, but there's only a certain number, right? So the whole thing's released at once. You can binge watch it, but there's, only 8 episodes, so it's kind of changing things up. Even the other night we were looking at some of the new stuff that's come out on Netflix just recently, and, man, they are coming out with a force lately with just new series after new series, and some are fantastic and some are not.
Allison, they're posting 1,000 hours of new programming in 2017.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. It is crazy. I'm like, just every new day I check, and it will have like the different categories and it has like recently added. And I'm like, this is all Netflix. It's great in some ways, but in some ways I'm like, oh my gosh, my watch list is like ridiculously long. I'm never going to get to all of that. I could never get to all of that. I think, but it's on there. I'm like, oh shoot.
I think Netflix is like Hal from 2001: Space Odyssey, who's trying to convince me to cut my cable bill, but I don't need to watch anything else besides Netflix.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Although I am buying PlayStation View this week so I can watch Sherlock because there's new Sherlock, and I heard The Angels in 2017 when Sherlock started up again. Oh.
Hey, Brendan. I'm sorry, I didn't email the entire staff, but I already have the episode.
I don't want to confess my sins. But part of the reason why I'm late calling in is because he sent me the new Sherlock link, and I was halfway through the episode when I got your message, and I'm like,
"There's no shame in that. You don't have to apologize."
Dude, I gotta call in. But yeah, it's
Brendan,
good, man. Oh,
I like how you're telling our audience that I'm gonna get this platform. I'm willing to pay for it. When you already realize in the back of your mind, we already have those episodes. No.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me that.
I'm sorry. I apologize to our audience. I failed in my editing duties. I was kind of trying to be lazy the last couple of days after the convention and play video games, and I missed something. But yes, we do have Sherlock. I'll send you the link afterwards.
It's
and
good.
I did.
It's been really good so far.
Yeah, soon.
Really
as soon as it airs on the BBC on Sunday, I go and get it. Because I'm going to watch it right before I go to bed. But anyway, we didn't actually do a review of the first episode. We'll allow Allison to do that this week. But anyway,
I'm going to finish it tonight for sure.
Getting back to like Netflix, I look at shows like, well, let's talk about our superhero shows where we had Jessica Jones and then we had Daredevil season 2 and then we had Luke Cage. Okay. Even though there's a few episodes like here and there, it's like, they're not as good as others because you have to kind of tell a story to get to your climax. That fits very well within that model. And I don't think those stories would work very well if you're on a network where you're trying to cram out 20 stories, in a year.
Right.
Well, and also you have to look at a little bit, if you're doing the superhero realm, you have to look at different audiences, right? Because the biggest contrast you have is between the superhero shows that Netflix is producing right now versus, let's say, the CW is doing superhero, right?
Right.
And I have to say I'm a fan of both, but they are very different genres for superheroes. But you look at CW's target audience, and it, in a lot of ways, is going to be a lot younger. They're still pulling in, teens and even some preteens, younger things, but you can't quite go as dark and gritty on CW, obviously, as you can on Netflix because you're exposing it to younger kids, which, I know for you guys.
I know, they got to have their Dawson's Creek type episodes.
Yeah, and you have to kind of, you think about it. Obviously we're older and we're talking about things from our viewpoint, but when I first got exposed to superheroes or different comic book stuff, I wasn't ready to process everything the same way that I am now. You know what I mean? Like, I was a kid. I was in high school. I think it should first come off as, like, exciting and fun and all that kind of stuff. But then, the darker stuff, kids aren't ready to process that. They can't, you know what I mean? They haven't lived enough life yet to.
Are you trying to tell me that you needed awkward Clark Kent swooning over Lana and Smallville?
I think. I think I did. And part of that, I think, is I see, my oldest, you guys know I've got a bunch of kids, and my oldest right now is only 11, and he's approaching that change between being a kid and starting to be, going to be a teenager soon and different stuff, whatever. And even though in lots of ways he's super mature and I can talk to him about stuff, as far as like emotions and feelings and that kind of stuff, he hasn't been exposed to any of that yet. So no, I don't want to throw him in the deep waters of like, the torrid love affair between Daredevil and Elektra. You know what I mean? Like, he needs Clark Kent.
Right.
He does, because he hasn't, you know what I mean? Like, he can't understand passion on that level yet, or intensity, or the sexual. He can't understand any of that yet, and he shouldn't.
Well, there's adults that really can't understand it either. But
that's true.
But I
that's
understand
true.
what you're saying.
But I mean, so I can see, it's like I don't want to give up my CW shows. I kind of like, and actually going back to Netflix I like that they're doing kid shows too. One thing that my kids and I have enjoyed over the break is that they released this is a kid show, on December 23rd, they released Troll Hunters. It's like this new DreamWorks. And it's been fantastic because, you know what, I can watch it with our whole family. I mean, it's interesting for me and my husband. It's a cartoon, but it's still interesting for us. And the kids can watch it, and I don't have to be worried about, oh, my gosh, is this not appropriate? So, I feel like you need the full spectrum, because even though for people like us, we can really get into, I love this about, Jessica Jones, or I love that it got dark, or gets, some of the other ones we're talking about. For kids and even for some younger people, they can't really get into that yet, and I don't think they should have to. So I like that CW has the cheesy Supergirl with the, the big smile and the all happy attitude. You know what I mean? Like, it has its place as well, So
speaking of the superhero shows on Netflix, out of the ones that dropped, what would you consider the best series from this year?
Oh, dang. Well, I'm still waiting for I'm waiting for some to come out still because there's a couple coming out in 2017 that I'm excited about.
Well, right,
I'm
but I mean,
I'm partial to Daredevil. I did like Jessica Jones. I think I remember talking to Marcus at first, and at first I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, and then it took me longer to warm up to it, but I did end up really liking her, and I like that series. Daredevil was probably my favorite. I don't know about you guys. I didn't even get through all of Luke Cage. I got through part of it, and I know you told me that it gets better, but I didn't actually get into getting through all of it. So I guess I'll go back and give it a try.
Yes, you should. You definitely should.
Does it get better? Does it get more?
Yes.
No.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I love the power of that he plays Luke Cage. Like, I love Luke Cage in the Jessica Jones series. I love him in that. So I was like, we were super excited for it to come out, and then just so many things came out at once that I feel like we kind of got bombarded with having to pick and choose. Oh, what do we watch now? There's not enough time for everything.
Well, the power of Luke Cage really is the soundtrack. I mean, it really puts you into that setting. I mean, Harlem and just the incredible music that sets the tone. But when we flew through Daredevil season 2, and of course me and Brendan were like, oh yes, we're gonna have the Punisher, one of our favorite. And we tried very hard to like nitpick it and like we can't just give it a perfect 10, can we? And we're like, screw it, it's a perfect 10. There wasn't anything.
I will say this though, of the 3, the best villain was David Tennant's Purple Man.
Yeah. But is he in the Luke Cage series?
No.
Well, no, it was Jessica Jones.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he's crazy. He is crazy.
David Tennant was, and of course most geeks know him as the 10th Doctor. So to see him as a full-on psychopath, like almost Hannibal Lecter scary, that was freaking awesome.
And he was so multidimensional. He was so multidimensional too. Like he was scary and creepy in a way that a lot of villains aren't always. He was kind of like, if you want to put him similar to Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes. He had that added dimension of like there's moments where you think that maybe he could be lucid for a second, and then the next minute is brutally cruel, and you're like, oh my god, like I didn't see that coming, So
right.
He was good.
Yeah. Well, Netflix has definitely added a lot of great things this year. I think the biggest the surprise hit that everybody just went crazy about was Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. I do too. Yeah.
And I don't know of anybody that was like, okay, this looks kind of cool, but we're not sure yet. And then, like, really in the first episode, you're like, okay, this is obviously they're tapping into my childhood, and I'm going to roll with it.
They definitely had an age bracket they were targeting. But what's interesting is I probably would never even have picked up Stranger Things if I hadn't been so widely. It was recommended to me by a lot of people, and I think I told you this before that. So growing up, I went to this gifted school you had to test to get in this gifted school, and a lot of people that I went to school with, one of them is the author of that Miss Peregrine's School for the Peculiar, and a lot of them are writers in Hollywood and different stuff now. And one of them who won an award for his writing stuff on Family Guy, he's the one that messaged me and was like, I had been talking about new shows, and he was the one that said, hey, have you checked out Stranger Things? A friend of mine was one of the writers on it. And at first I was kind of like, I don't know that I can get into this. It seems super bizarre. Whenever they throw aliens in, there's always that chance that it could be cheesy aliens, and you're like, And we started watching it, and we were on vacation. I think we got through it all in 2 days. It was pretty sad, but we were like,
right.
just one more,
I had a friend of mine last night who posted on Facebook. He said, so if you're up at 12 o'clock at night and you can't sleep, do not start watching Stranger Things.
No,
I'm 6 episodes in, and it's 6 a.m., and I still haven't been to sleep.
Yeah. It's one of those you just can't stop.
Well, and I think, out of everything that Netflix did this past year, Stranger Things is probably the best thing that they did. And it's kind of, sad compared to, because we had these great superhero series, but it's like, wow, you brought, again, everything from my childhood that I love, from horror to sci-fi to, breakout
even
star
the
Millie Brown. Yeah, and the soundtrack.
Well,
I
think the uniqueness of it is what was so gripping. You know what I mean? I think the uniqueness. There's a lot of superhero stuff going on right now, movies, TV, and it's all great. It's all great in its own different spectrum. But there's nothing like when you talk about Stranger Things. The only way to describe it to someone is to describe it with using 5 different things. You're like, okay, E.T. meets Goonies meets. You know what I mean? You're using a whole bunch of different things. So the uniqueness that it could bring so many things into one show just made it stand out differently than anything else.
Well, that's and my thing about Stranger Things too is, for everybody that complains about J.J. Abrams, where he doesn't really have any original ideas, it's just about tapping into your nostalgia. I'm like, did you like Stranger Things? Oh yeah, that's great. Well,
who cares?
That's all it is.
It's
different,
entertainment, people.
Right, but there's familiarity there and everything that we love about it, and that's why we love it. Okay, I will admit, I'm sure Brenda did the same thing. I geeked out when the first time you see the kids and they're playing D&D and like, yes.
I still play D&D.
I know.
Well, and even though they used elements from different things, I still think they did a pretty good job making it their own. You know what I mean? Like, there was enough different elements that they kind of spun their own thing. So.
Right. No, I mean, and
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I loved it.
And we can go on about other streaming things, but the only other streaming series that I want to mention that I think, from our side, and one of our bloggers, Joshua, just got through doing the full review on it, was The Man in the High Castle Season 2. As much as we raved about the first season last year and the period piece and, what are they going to do, and it had those Kaiser Soze moments at the end, they rolled out with Season 2, and it's like, oh, okay, you are going to top yourself, and everything that I thought I knew is going to be completely wrong by the first episode. And I was discussing with him, it's like, I tried to nitpick it. I did. It was another one that I really tried to nitpick when we were talking about it 2 weeks ago. And I just couldn't. There wasn't one episode that I wasn't bored at all. It just, everything about it.
The acting is fantastic in that. It's very well done.
Yeah. And the fact is, it's very much like Game of Thrones, where there are very, very few of the characters that you absolutely hate, that it's very black and white. Obviously, we've always hated Cersei Lancer, and we want her to have a very horrible death, and she will get it eventually. But, I thought that about John Smith, starting out in The Man in the High Castle, and then you're like, oh, well, I don't really think this guy's a bad guy, and you get more of his backstory in Season 2, and it's like, oh. So between that and Stranger Things are the two ones that just like, wow. For me, an honorable mention is Billy Bob Thornton and Goliath, which I thought was a great little 8-episode series and perfect for him. But for that nerd show, yeah.
One series that I think deserves an honorable mention, is because it made me rethink the way I look at the cop genre on television, is Bosch. Bosch Season 2 on Amazon Prime was awesome. I love how the series, they take a serialized format and put it towards a cop show. So it's not the new case of the week. It's one or two cases that usually tie into each other that are done through the length of the season. And it's really great writing. And Tyler Welliver, the main actor, is fantastic. So if you get a chance, watch that one as well.
All right,
have you guys watched The Crown at all, or no?
No.
Not yet. It's still on my watch list.
Okay. Well, that one, if you like those, that one, it's on the watch list. That one's worth mentioning as well if you haven't gotten into it and you like period pieces. The Crown is very good.
Look, Allison, I just finally got around to watching Downton Abbey and binge watching that. It's a slow process for me.
And you were hooked on Downton Abbey, so don't even go there.
Yeah, I was. That was like my summer thing. Anyway. Real quick, before we move on to movies this past year, I do want to talk about our favorite superhero shows, pretty much all on the CW now. Between last year and what's happening this year, it seems like Arrow pretty much just is going to be the strongest show in my mind. But is there best and worst things you liked and that you haven't liked?
On Arrow or in the superhero series?
Well, all of them.
Well, there's a couple of things. Obviously, I think I was a big critic of Supergirl when it first came out, and I was just not into it all the first season. Then by the end of the first season, it grew on me a little bit. I liked it even more when CW picked it up, only because I like that it's not quite as dark as the other ones that are out there, just because it makes it a little bit different. And I also love that they picked up on the fact that there's no chemistry between James Olsen and her at all, and so they kiboshed that relationship in the first episode, which I appreciated. And then the introduction of I'm escaping his name right now, but the actor that plays the Daxonite guy, he was from Vampire Diaries and some other things. And they brought in another alien that crash landed from Daxam from a different planet. And I liked the introduction of him as well. So they brought back Lex Luthor's sister, and they've introduced some different people and whatnot, and so I think it's done fairly well. It still has a long way to go, I feel like, before it stabilizes, but CW has taken it in a better direction, I think, than the writing it had before. So that's been good. Arrow, I haven't been super excited with Arrow for some of the choices they're making. I'm interested to see what plays out. I think the fact that they have Oliver and Felicity working so closely together after being engaged like it's no big deal is awkward. Like I don't know how many of you guys have ever worked with an ex-fiance or like an ex of any sort.
Well, that's because they're going to end up back together.
Yeah, it just doesn't roll like that where you're like, oh, no, I'm super happy for you and your boyfriend. Oh, and by the way, I got your boyfriend killed. And, it's like, you didn't have a choice. It was okay. Like, it's just super. There's so much, like, awkward tension there. Obviously, the season finale or the mid-season finale everyone was kind of like, what just happened? That was awesome.
Why is everybody surprised by that? I mean, again, it's
only people that are surprised are those that don't read the comics. Those are the only people that are surprised.
Well, that's where I was going. It's like,
those are the only people that are surprised. If you've read the comics, you're not. But everybody else is like, oh my gosh.
Even if you've never read the comics, how many times are we keep mentioning the Lazarus Pit? I mean, that's like your clue. Ding, ding, ding. Somebody's going to be coming back to life.
On that
that's
episode,
not the Lazarus Pit.
In the beginning of that episode,
that's not what's going on with her at all. That's not at the end. It's not the Lazarus Pits at all. They've already shown you that character before.
But keep in mind that on that exact same episode, in the beginning, Felicity says, "Oh yeah, we've got dead people that come up that are alive like every Tuesday." Remember, she makes a joke about it in the very beginning of that show. She's like, "Well, we think are dead, but just kidding, they're not dead." And so we'll find more out about that later. I don't want to do any big spoilers for people.
I can tell you right now who it's going to be. It's going to be Black Siren from Earth 2.
Huh, well, there you go.
There you go. He's already got it figured out.
Yeah. Because they've already stated that their Laurel is not coming back. That character is dead.
Yeah.
Well, and especially if we think that Felicity and Oliver are ending back up together, you can't really reintroduce. Laurel couldn't come back because obviously looking at everything that happened when the alien attack came in his perfect life and he's marrying Laurel, that would kind of throw things off. So,
right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm surprisingly, the whole crossover series with the Alien series, Arrow was a different episode that week than it has been. The action series the action one of all that was on the Flash, and Arrow was a little bit more introverted and like let's get into the psyche of what's happening with these characters. So
that's because I think that's because it was the Arrow was second in the 4, right? So it went third. Supergirl, Arrow, Flash. Oh, it was third? I thought it was the other way around.
It goes Supergirl, the Flash, then Arrow.
Flash. Okay, so yeah.
Right.
Flash was second. Actually, Flash and the Legends of Tomorrow were the 2 episodes that had more action in them.
Right.
But and the Flash has grown on me a lot too. There's always things that you're going to be like, I don't like that. It's a stylistic choice I wouldn't go with. They're characters that bug you. I mean, I don't really like this new guy that's the guy that plays Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter that's now the other guy. I'm not sure what his role is and everything. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, what's his point here? But, they've used him and done different things.
Well, I still hate Iris.
You still hate Iris.
I know Candace Patton is very nice. I just hate that character. Like,
she's got,
can we kill her off?
According to the premonition, she's going to die, so you might be in luck. But, yes, it's good. I love when they do crossovers because if you look at any comic book series, if you are comic book readers, I don't know how many listeners actually read comic books. Comic books do crossovers all the time. I mean, that's what they live on half the time. And I love when they do crossovers because it brings different audiences from different people. Like you might be a diehard X-Men fan or Avengers or whoever.
Right.
Whenever they do a crossover, even if it's people you don't normally know, you're going to read it because your people are in it, So when they do crossovers, I feel like it's good for all the shows because it builds up audiences of people that might not otherwise watch them. Like, most Arrow fans are not watching Supergirl, but they might have that week because
the best thing that happened to Legends of Tomorrow was that crossover event because it brought in the fans.
It's been kind of hanging in the wind. Yeah,
their ratings
down and kind of.
So.
Yeah, well, it's kind of.
Well, I think we are also getting to the point now where you're kind of having like an influx. I mean, it's the golden age of like comics where. We're going to start bringing out as much as we can because of the popularity. So some things aren't going to be as popular and go by the wayside. Which we may lose some, like Constantine. And yes, I'm still arguing about that. Netflix, you want to add 1,000 hours of television for me? Why not bring that series back? Just saying.
Also,
right.
I think with the Legends of Tomorrow, part of their whole thing is they deal with time travel, right? But there's several shows this season that deal with time travel and that I think in some ways do it better. Both the series Timeless and Frequency debuted this fall, and I really like both those series and found them more interesting than Legends of Tomorrow, even though I was watching that previously.
I wanted to like Timeless, and I couldn't.
Oh, I like it.
It's hit or miss for me at this point.
I was very excited about it because I like period pieces, and I like Highlander when you go back and go see all the different times in history. It just didn't do it for me.
I think it's definitely more of a chick. I think it's definitely more of a chick show than it is a guy show. I can tell you there's more women that are watching it.
It's not even about that. It's written for women. The characters fell flat for me.
It's starting to get predictable for me.
Yeah.
But the one show, I mean, if there's like one show, and we got to move on to movies, but if there's like one show that I'm actually still watching from like week to week that I have really enjoyed, Designated Survivor.
Oh yeah,
for sure. I'm not even saying it's like a great show, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you have this conspiracy within a conspiracy, and I think they picked a really great cast for it. So
that's another one I gave up on because it just got way too predictable for me. Like I was for the first 4 episodes. For the first 4 episodes, I was like, "This is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen," and it's exactly what happened. And I was like, "Okay, I'm done." If I guess your first 4 plot lines, you're not doing it for me. So
yeah, they have some twists and turns later, and sometimes if they do too many twists and turns, like 2 shows that have a lot of twists and turns that are like almost too much, or Notorious and Secret and Lies, it's kind of like ridiculously so. But Designated Survivor, I feel like there was a couple of things that kind of surprised me. I mean, not tons, but some I was like, oh, that's different. So maybe go back and give it a second try.
Well, I think, Brendan, for you, it's one of those that you're going to have to like binge watch on Netflix or someplace like that and just kind of get through it and see if you like it. But
quick side note on best and worst before we go to movies. Quick side note, best and worst. Movies adapted to television, specifically network television. Worst, Rush Hour. Best, Lethal Weapon.
Right? You know what?
Thank
you for bringing that up. I'm glad Rush Hour went by the wayside because, wow, you picked a horrible cast. Yeah. But Lethal Weapon, it really is this fun TV show. I'm pleasantly surprised by how good it really is.
It did shock me too because I was like, this is either going to be.
I haven't watched that one yet. I'll have to watch it.
It was either going to be one of these shows that was awful or mildly amusing, and it actually surprised me how good it was.
Well, and Clayton Crawford, I mean, I don't like him having a mustache or anything, but he does crack me up, and I think he really does have the Riggs character down, you know. And Damon Wayans
is a pretty good Murtaugh.
Damon Wayans.
Yeah.
Damon Wayans.
Overall together, it's turning out. I mean, there are some things that are turning out to be kind of predictable about it. You know, it's like how much flirtation are you going to have between the Doctor and Riggs before that ends up happening? But overall, you get this fun adventure from week to week. And it's just But anyway. All right, so movies, and we'll get to what we think might end up being Best Picture and stuff. Now, we can't talk about everything in 17 minutes because we do see a lot of films, especially at film festivals. And there's a lot of things that we can talk about, but the big ones that we do review, we're going to start with. Well, first of all, let me say this. You already heard us talk about Star Wars. I don't think Star Wars is probably the best picture of the year. I don't even necessarily think it's the best of the nerd films of the year. It was a great film, and we had a lot of fun with it for an individual Star Wars story for a lot of reasons. And if you want to know why we thought about it, then go back and listen to last week's show. But I will say that out of the superhero shows, Marvel still gets it. DC is still lost in the woods in a lot of ways. Hence why we are putting together our panel for AllCon here in Dallas this year of how to fix the DC movie universe. And DC has proven that, A, your director's cuts are way better, and Warner Brothers is just idiots because they don't think we can sit through 3 hours of a movie in the theater, even though we were forced to watch 3 3-hour Hobbit movies and Avatar. And they want to... So, just do the director's cut and be done with it. But I think there's one superhero movie that we had been waiting for a while, and it still is the best one that came out this year, and that was Deadpool, hands down. I'm sorry, but there is
Deadpool was
Civil
fantastic.
War was good. Yeah, I mean, Brendan fell out of his seat.
I'm going to take him to see Professor Xavier. Which one?
I mean, the Deadpool movie that we should have gotten, years before, and you finally put it right. And by the way, we, pretty much made us forget that Ryan Reynolds had to play the Green Lantern.
Oh God! Thank goodness for that.
Except for the moment, except for where he said, "Okay, just don't make the super suit green or animated."
Right.
I love Ryan Reynolds though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying
and
the
he's
plot
able to
line.
himself.
The plot line was
yeah,
not really like it wasn't really fantastic or anything. Right. No, we've seen it before. It was Deadpool being Deadpool. Okay.
And that's all we wanted.
I
bet it looks huge in this hand.
I thought great casting with Morena Baccarin too. I have never found her so hot than in that movie. And T.J. Miller as the bartender. I mean, you had everything you needed to make a great movie. Every time I want to have a good day, I always think of that scene. Oh, right, now let's go out there and make a difference. Marvel, Civil War was a good movie. It really was. I mean, and I think everybody knew it was going to be a good movie. But it's also, you knew that they couldn't do all the storylines from Civil War because of, who owns the rights to what and crap like that. But I also thought it was pretty much just an Avengers 3 movie, leading up to, Phase 3 and stuff like that. So, I mean, while it was great and a great way to introduce the new Spider-Man, and I love the fact that Tony Stark is making MILF jokes, which he should.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I think for the new Spider-Man, my husband's having watched 5 different trailers a whole bunch of times. He's so excited. He keeps having to. I'm like, honey, I've seen this one, but he's a huge Spider-Man fan, so he's very. And we laugh a whole bunch of times whenever Tony Stark does the whole. I'm not hugging you. I'm just opening the door. That's the funniest. I mean, so classic. Have you guys seen that part where he goes to? Yeah, it's great. And so we laugh at that. We're excited for that one.
We keep rebooting Spider-Man. So, and we keep having this debate
on
why
is that? Why is that exactly? I'm curious from your perspective. Why do they keep rebooting Spider-Man? I mean, I'm okay with it.
I can tell you exactly why I kept rebooting it. Because first, they did 3 movies at Fox with them, and then they were going to lose the rights to Marvel if they did not do another movie. They couldn't get Sam Raimi and the other one. The original Spider-Man, his name escapes me now.
Tobey Maguire?
Tobey Maguire. They couldn't get those 2 guys back to do a 4th movie, so they decided to reboot it with Andrew Garfield. They did 2. The second one, I don't have a problem with Andrew Garfield so much as I had a problem with everything else in the movies. I mean, Christ, they made Jamie Foxx look like powder and blacklisted.
I remember you didn't like that. I remember you didn't like Spider-Man. I can't remember why.
Yeah, and it's got more to do with every other decision they made in those series. But and so then Fox knew they were up a creek. Their movie division is losing a ton of money. It was a Sony, not Fox.
Yeah.
So
it's all
movie division
all
losing a ton. Yeah, they was losing a ton of money, so they knew they had to do something. So they struck a deal with Marvel for a crap ton of money, so that Marvel would take it over and they would still get a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I love the idea that you are putting Spider-Man, back with the Avengers and all that. So you do have this dynamic, and he is a teenager, and it's going to work very, very well. And I'm like you. It's one of the most anticipated movies, of the year. Now, we have, again, debated back and forth about Batman versus Superman, and it's thank you for giving me one more movie to kind of help set up Justice League. I'm still excited about Justice League. Okay, I can't wait to see that. And of course, we all know that Superman really isn't dead. But again, it is the problem of studio editing and whatnot that you have to, that's always a director's cut that ends up being better, but you don't release that. And of course, Suicide Squad, that should have been a great movie, and it just was such a huge letdown. Except for, Margot Robbie being Harley Quinn. She was the bridesmaid.
Yeah,
in fact, we should have just called...
everyone dressed up as for Halloween this year? Like the full world dressed up as her this year?
Well,
even some people that shouldn't have been?
Even some people that shouldn't have, a lot of people that shouldn't have.
And including some guys that I saw?
Yep.
Yeah, just throwing that up there.
Yeah. So,
no,
I mean,
I'm excited. I'm excited for Justice League.
It's just movies that could have been like so much better, and all that. But then again, Marvel has proven yet again that they are on top. I mean, Doctor Strange was a really good movie.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Doctor Strange. I can see why I didn't necessarily have an. We love Doctor Strange. I can see how I had a bunch of friends that went and they were just like, oh, we just don't get it, and I'm like, maybe it was just too deep for you. I mean, I can see how people didn't quite get it, but we really liked it. So. It was different than people. I think most people that went there thinking they're going to have an Avengers movie, and then they were like, "Wait a second, I had to think, and I didn't follow this part." And
but again, you have to have your Doctor Strange movie to set up his character in Avengers, and that's all that movie is. It's a great way to introduce his character. Benedict Cumberbatch is awesome. Him going back and forth with the cloak is really, in my mind, the best part.
He's so good.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's Benedict Cumberbatch. Is he bad in anything he does? No, not really. I mean, so I do love to tell people though that early on in his career, now there was a TV series that Hugh Laurie did on the BBC right before he did House. In fact, if this series hadn't been canceled, he probably still would have been doing that and not been House. So, but it was called 40-something, and he plays a doctor with 3 kids, and his wife finally decides to go back to work, so he's having to contend with that. Well, the oldest son is Benedict Cumberbatch, who's still living at home,
really?
sleeps around. Yeah, and him and the younger brother are kind of vying over the same girl, while Dad's having to deal with raging hormones. So it only had 6 episodes, but it's one of those kind of priceless BBC of him just kind of being funny and quiet and, what we know before what we really knew of Benedict Cumberbatch. So, there were a lot of bad movies that probably never should have come out. I don't see why we needed another Independence Day movie. I wanted to like that movie, and that movie was just
I didn't even see it. I know.
No, it was not even worth it.
There's no redoing that movie. Yeah, there's no redoing that movie. Did you guys? You know what I still haven't seen that I'm super depressed about, but you guys might not be fans, so it might not matter to you. Did you guys see Fantastic Beasts?
Yeah, I did.
Yes. No. Are you guys not fans?
Yeah.
Is it good? Not good?
Well, I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan personally, but.
Oh, you're not? Dang it! Dang you!
It was. Let me say this. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't oh my god amazing, but it was pretty good. The creatures were pretty fantastic. And it does set up future movies because there is a cameo at the end by Johnny Depp, and it's not just a cameo. He is going to be set up as basically the Voldemort of that generation. And there are 4 more movies coming.
I gotta see it. I am a Harry Potter fan, so I'm gonna.
Basically, the character he plays is the character that Dumbledore defeated, that made Dumbledore's reputation.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to see it. So you guys look out because you guys can see these movies without having to think about a babysitter for 6 children. So let's just put that out there. This is why I review television and not movies, because I'm like, oh crap, I want to go to that movie, but just kidding, I can't. So,
I mean, it's a great movie for a new trilogy and all that, but I think for me, it's just I grew up with Lord of the Rings, so I want that more.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a little too old when Harry Potter hit, and I've read the books, I've watched all the movies. I'm like, that's great, that's entertaining.
No, it's definitely it's definitely more for children. Yeah, it's definitely more for children and children's generation, but that's okay.
Right. Some of the best movies, kind of underrated, that I think came out this year, and of course we're never going to have time to talk about everything, but some of the best reviewed that we have had was Kate Winslet did a movie set in Australia called The Dressmaker, and Hugo Weaving plays a cop who's a crossdresser. That's all I'm going to say. You know it's going to be funny. I do challenge people, if you want your musical movie with a great soundtrack, and it is on Netflix, Sing Street, done by the same people who did Once and Begin Again. And of course, you know, it's all the actors singing and everything. And it's set in Dublin about them forming a rock and roll band. Well, basically a guy forms a rock and roll band to impress a girl. But it's great cast, absolutely incredible, and stuff. As for, you know, I mean, you know how we feel about the superhero movies and stuff. Yes, La La Land is a movie that everybody should go see. You know, it's very exciting and stuff like that. But Alex Moore and I always
Have you seen it yet? Have you seen La La Land yet, Marcus, or no?
Yeah.
You have seen it? Okay.
Yeah, it's good. I'm not saying it's a bad movie or anything like that. I mean, if you like it is very much, if you like those classic like Sing and Dance, I mean, it very much films, it very much has that feel. And Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone are great in it. So
I've heard fantastic reviews.
But Alex Moore and I always kind of go back and forth on, you know, an indie films that kind of under the radar that people should check out. And I've gone back and forth this year, like I did a couple years ago, on what I would actually really pick. And we were lucky enough to see both of these films at the Dallas Film Festival back in April. One of them was called Slash, and it's about a teenager who writes weird erotic nerd fiction and meets a girl, and you know, there's conventions for that kind of thing, and where people dress up, and it's very kind of heartwarming and stuff. And I think it's finally starting to get distribution. So hopefully it'll end up where people can see it. But the other one was a film called Operation Avalanche, and we love these filmmakers with that nerd show because they did a movie a few years ago that was at the Dallas Film Festival called The Dirties, and this is their second film. And it's basically shot in a Super 8 format where they work for the CIA, and they basically infiltrate NASA because they think there's a spy, and they disguise themselves as a documentary film crew, which they really are, and they find out over here that the U.S. is not going to be able to get to the moon by 1969, so it's actually their idea to help fake the moon landing using technology from Hollywood. So it's like a conspiracy within a conspiracy. It's a mockumentary and very just, if you love that kind of thing, an absolute crazy film. And the style of film that they did it in made it even better. It's starting to get some theater releases and stuff, but it was one of those prize gems that we did. That one's actually my pick this year, and I've been trying to talk it up to everybody. It's like, you have to watch what these guys have done, you know, stuff like that. But real quick, Allison, what was your favorite movie of the year, and what was your least favorite? We got about a minute and a half here, so we'll have to make it really quick.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, no. Skip to somebody else. I can't even think that fast. Go to Brendan. I don't know. I can't think that
Brendan?
fast.
Yeah, my favorite movie is going to be Deadpool. My least favorite, I guess I didn't really see anything that I absolutely hated, so I guess my least favorite is going to have to be Batman versus Superman.
Sad for them.
I didn't absolutely hate it. I mean, it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. It almost was the worst comic book movie I've seen, but I didn't see a movie I truly hated this year. There wasn't one movie that I walked out of it and I was like, oh my god, why did I wait?
I hated in a long time. Yeah, I haven't seen a movie I hated in a long time, so it's probably a good thing.
But Allison, what was your number one movie of 2016?
Oh man, 2016 is a whole long year. I like Civil War a lot as far as comic book movies go. I like Civil War. The plot wasn't all that great, but it had characters that I loved. I'm trying to even think what we saw this year.
Well, that's okay. That's something that you can tweet out. Now, I will say that in regards to award winners and stuff, I think it's going to come down to Lion and Manchester City by the Sea. That's my pick for Best Picture. I'm just throwing it out there.
Hidden Figures might be a leak, or is that going to be for next year?
Well, no, it's actually getting its wide
year.
release this week, so it'll be next year. Yeah.
It'll be next year. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Allison can go see it on Wednesday, and
I know, I'm excited about that. It looks so good.
But anyway, there's a lot we didn't talk about, a lot we did. It was a long year, but we'd like to hear from you on Twitter and everything about your favorite moments of 2016 and what you look forward to 2017, Star Wars Episode 8. But we thank you for listening in. Stay nerdy, everybody, and we are out of here. Say goodbye.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.